Welcome to the Beauty Briefing at Liberty, where we discuss the key conversations happening in the beauty industry today. In this episode, I'm joined by two founders who are experts in fragrance, curation, and personal care. Lyn Harris is the pioneering founder of Perfumer H, renowned for her artisanal fragrances that emphasize natural ingredients and sensory storytelling. Daniel Bense is the founder of To My Ships, a personal care brand inspired by the classical world. His creations are designed to elevate the rituals of daily self-care, including the often overlooked armpit. Welcome, Lyn and Daniel. So I guess we should start at the beginning. So maybe, Lyn, you can start. Tell me a bit about your journey in fragrance.
My story is I'm a perfumer. And I started, my grandparents were a big influence. They had a small holding in Scotland, and I used to go there, and that was my olfactory awakening. They were always baking, they lived off the land, and they grew all their own vegetables and fruits, and it was just this very idyllic setting, and my grandfather was a carpenter, so just smells all the time, and just nature and being. And I guess they taught me how to live with nature, and that's my big thing. And it always has done. And then basically I took terrible at school, got kicked out, and I worked in a fragrance store in Yorkshire, my hometown, and I just had the best time. And I learned about Guerlain and Chanel and all these amazing brands, and I said one day to my parents, I want to know how to make it. And so they said, find a school and we'll see what we can do. And that's what I did. And I met this amazing woman, Monique Schleinger, in Paris. And she had this small school by the Eiffel Tower. And I went there for 3 years. And it's incredible, pioneer of female perfumery. She was taught by Jean Carl. And then I took myself to Grasse and I worked with Robertet, and I'm still with them today as an independent perfumer. But I guess my entrepreneurial spirit also took me to this, having my own brand, which I really cherished. And Perfumer H is this vision. I really wanted to show the world what it is to be a perfumer. I don't like smells to overwhelm or dominate. I like them to work with you, which seems to be a really interesting trend at the moment, these skin scents that are coming out. And I love to work, I've always worked with really interesting and precious ingredients. It might be just the simple rose from Turkey, but it's how I work my materials into my creations, and that's what I'm known for. And I was in Grasse when no one was using naturals as well, so I kind of brought them back into perfumery because they should always be there. But you do need the science, and science is very important, and that is where the magic is.
And Daniel, what about you? So you worked for Aesop for a long time before starting To My Ships. What was your journey?
Well, I'm from probably the complete other side of the coin. And I've always grown up in I really had one brand story, and I fell into Aesop while I was studying in Australia as a part-time student, just finding my way through what I wanted to do, and ended up, I think, having an apprenticeship in really working between an incredibly visionary founder, a true, a bit like yourself, Lyn, someone who could really see into the future and see where things were headed. And then I had the sort of commercial genius on the other side, and I was more on the one side than the other, but I got this real education in understanding how both sides come together and creating beautiful brands. Not that we even probably thought of ourselves as a brand, but I fell into this business and worked there, I'd say almost as an in-house entrepreneur. So I was given tasks and projects, and that saw me be able to launch the brand in the US, to start the online channel. And they sent me over here to the UK eventually to take what was a fledgling business and see how we could grow it. And that, was always around building culture, and team, and we were backed by beautiful product. And I think those are the bits that I've learned along the way. And I did that at Aesop for 12 years and went to Sunspill for a bit, where I met Lyn, and got to work with a beautiful British heritage brand and learn a lot more about luxury and fashion, and eventually decided, no, I need to do my own thing. And so that's how I ended up here.
But it's interesting you talk about people, because people are everything on your journey, and people are everything when you're creating a brand. And you're nothing without your team, and that's what I really cherish. The people that surround you, and they give everything to you, and they enable your vision to come alive. And that's what a lot of people don't appreciate. They think it's this figurehead, and obviously there is a lot of that, and I'm into detail, so. And I work with a lot of creatives because I work with a lot of artists. So I work with this glass blower. That was a really interesting moment for me. I started working with Michael Roux because I was very frustrated, because the industry at that, I think, it's 10 years ago, I just didn't want to create another brand. There's so many brands. And I heard you say brand, if you can say that. I hate that word, just like I hate marketing, but it's something you just get used to, don't you? But I guess what we're doing is quite authentic, both of us. But yes, and I guess I was frustrated. I didn't want just another bottle, and everyone was sending me bottles. And I was just like, oh my God. And the minimums were so high. And I was like, this is just going to destroy me. And I thought, what can I do? And then I had this piece of, this beautiful glass piece in my apartment. And I looked at the bottom, it was this guy, and I Googled him and I emailed him. And it was in London. And I thought, oh my God, this is meant to be. So I went to see him 2 weeks later. And it was just, and then 2 years later, he produced this amazing, my bottles. It took 2 years for us to really get the right shape, and it's his design. I was just telling him what I love, and then he went into sort of the history of perfume bottles. He was intrigued by what I did. So it was just this amazing sort of fusion of minds. And Michael's still with us today, and he's instrumental to Perfumer H, and him and his wife and his daughter are just incredible people. So the bottle is everything. We engrave it with the name, and then we put it in our shops, and basically you refill the bottle, and that was my concept from the beginning. I have to have something that goes on. Mm-hmm. It can't just be thrown in the bin, and I wanted to get rid of all the waste and the cellophane and all the boxes, so everything's very simply wrapped. And then we have these candles, and so Michael made candles, because I've always loved creating candles as well as fine fragrance, and so with the candles what we've done is that you bring the candle back, the empty vessel, and then we offer you another one for half price, and we do that in all our concessions. So we do that here at Liberty, we do it everywhere.
How many new scents do you create a year? Is there a particular number, or is it just instinct?
I am a bit relentless in how I create, because I'm always challenging myself creatively, and then I'm traveling quite a bit as well, and I find that a sort of an incredible moment for me to sort of sort of stimulate my creativity, and sort of fill my notebook with plenty of ideas. So I do a lot of my creating just anywhere and remotely. All my creations are done remotely, and then I come back to my studio and I formulate on my code book. But I take my code book everywhere as my computer, and then my assistant does it while I'm away and everything. I would say, I probably do about 5 fragrances a year that I'm really happy with. Mm-hmm. But I do more than that. Because I work for other brands as well. So that's of my own work for Perfumer H. But if I'm working for other brands, because I have to feed myself, and working for other brands is also just keeps me on my toes, because it's all in your subconscious. So you're forever sort of working on things. And I have this weird thing, actually. So my creativity happens at the end of the day, and sometimes really early in the morning. And I just have to go with that. So often when or last thing at night before I'm going to sleep, I get these sort of moments where the formula just comes into my head. The sort of logic of what I wanted, I get it all of a sudden. So I always have a notebook by my bed, which is kind of, just one of my things. And then when I wake up, often I get those moments as well. And I love that. I love that about creativity, how it just creeps up on you and you never know.
And what do you write down? Is it ingredients or notes?
I write down notes, ingredients, things that I think should be together. You know, I usually start with simple accords and then it builds into a formula. I call it painting pictures. But there's generally like my subjects within that picture, and I select them quite carefully. And once I've got those subjects, then I dress it and add the nuances, add the personality. Mm-hmm. And then you have your own rhythm of materials and palette. And then it's this other thing, always challenging your creativity, because you can never be complacent.
It's that notion that, not my quote, but it's like, what is it about poetry? I spent all afternoon removing a comma and then I put it back in again.
It is precisely that. Yeah. You know, sometimes I think, God, I'm just staring out the window here. And I have been for 2 hours. But then at the end of in another hour, I come up with this amazing formula. Yeah. So I think, well, it's been so worth it.
But Lyn's like, the thing people don't understand about fragrance is like the amount of ingredients you have to select from are thousands and thousands of ingredients. Yeah. It's really a feat to edit it down to what you want. Yes.
And I think when I was young, I was just like, you know, so like, I have to use everything. I have to use, you know, and you're exploring and you're trying to sort of find your way and develop who you are as a perfumer, and your voice, and then it's like miraculous. All of a sudden, you just start to understand your materials and who you are and what you want to express, and that's what's really important to me.
It's very interesting, though, when you must be doing your own versus someone else's, because, like, are you driving the car, or are you in the back seat of the car, or are you giving directions? Because it's a different brain, I imagine.
It is. And that I really like. I like because I think it's important for you as a creative person to be briefed and to be told how to create. So I quite like the challenge of somebody giving me a brief and saying, that this is my brand.
And you have to be part chemist. Yeah. That's the thing with Perfumer. You're not just creative, you're chemist, because you can only use certain ingredients up to a certain level in the concentration. So then you might have to mimic that ingredient with another ingredient. So you're constantly creating with so many restrictions.
I mean, the restrictions now is quite incredible. I spend 50% of my time, you know, with the legislation work. And I kind of, because I'm this eternal optimist, I kind of just think, okay, I'm just being challenged one more time.
So Daniel, I feel like we were talking about that thing of like the communal mind and trends moving in sync. And yet you have created a brand with a very unique point of view. And you were also saying that when you were working for these other amazing companies, you still had this sort of urge to start your own thing. So can you tell me a bit about the seeds of that and how that flowered into the brand and the identity that you have now?
I mean, it wasn't product. It was looking around in your bathroom and thinking there's this very, you know, unloved, unwarranted, but used everyday product that just didn't feel interesting or elevated. And what's more fun than taking something that's a dark, smelly function and trying to turn it into something interesting and beautiful, and thinking twice about the deodorant you put on every day. So it began with that seed of an idea, and then thinking about how we could create something that was more than a deodorant, but less than a fine fragrance. And that would be really a pleasure to use, obviously safe and efficacious and all the things that you wanted to do. It has to work. And that was the seed of the idea. And then I was actually it wasn't then in brand story, it was then in team, and what people could I get and rally around that idea, which perfumer, which chemist, where would it be made, how would it be created, and many things that Lyn's discussing, which I think are maybe unseen by the consumer, which is absolutely fine because we make the decisions for them, is that you're editing down from a list of not just ingredients, but packaging items that you can use that are safe and that are approved and that will not interact with your product. So you have to take this whole world and then get it down to exactly what you want to create. So I was like, who do I need around me to be able to do that? And then we started with brand building and story. And I think the genesis of it being in, let's go to the best perfumer we could work with, and let's go to the best chemist, and then start those two balls rolling and eventually bring them together into a deodorant was where we began. And that was it's a 3-year journey in creating scent, and then in creating the actual base of the formulation with the active ingredients. And we wanted to treat your underarms really like as if it was skincare. So went to a skincare lab in France, wanted to source, and we did only source from Europe, which was very difficult to manufacture in France. But we really wanted to begin with product texture, skin feel, active ingredients, very natural, which is a bit of a misused word in a way, but just saying you want to use as close to nature ingredients and also source as clean as possible. Also an industry term, but just meant that you were trying to use, for us, it ended up being fermented lactic acids and stem cells of certain fruits and the like to prevent the smelly bacteria.
And I'm really interested in the inspiration behind the brand. Is it specifically Homer's Iliad, or is it like the classical world more generally?
I mean, probably both, but the Iliad in particular. The name of the brand is a quote from the Iliad. Each product range we launch it's 3 words from a translation of the Iliad. So yeah.
And why the Iliad? That's quite a specific reference to build an entire brand around.
I think much of beauty can be quite surface level, and I wanted to create something new that had depth and substance, and that would resonate and would ultimately have an enduring beauty to it. And I think that a poem that's been passed down by orators over the ages sits much more in the category of an enduring beauty, and that could be an inspiration that we can continually draw upon. I'm by no means a classical scholar like you are, but it definitely has always inspired me. The Odyssey may have been a little bit too expected, and the Iliad seemed to be a bit more interesting. And you go through it and you read it, and there's so many beautiful paragraphs and sections and bits that through actually is just life. There's a lot of beauty that sort of distills or comes through, and I think that's why. And it keeps us focused and guided to a specific vision rather than being distracted by everything that might be out there. So there's many reasons, but yeah, mostly just to have something enduring is what I wanted to create.
Yeah, and I guess having a specific reference point like that, it gives you something really solid to come back to.
Well, yeah, ask Lyn what it's like if you're trying to design a fragrance by committee. It doesn't work, and it's the same thing if you're trying to create a world or a universe, I think. Yeah, too many voices.
And then you have, your people around you that you trust, and you keep it simple.
Yeah. Which is hard.
Yeah,
because I always use the analogy that, particularly when there's so many ingredients, but it's much more like cooking in a way. But to make an amazing, I don't know, let's say cacio e pepe, right? Well, how many ingredients? It's pasta water, pecorino, and black pepper. It's super simple, but to make that dish, incredibly difficult just to get the temperature of the water right so that it emulsifies, so that the cheese turns into a creamy sauce, toast the black pepper, the right black pepper. And that's what's so difficult in the simplicity is actually harder than just adding more and more and more preservatives and ingredients.
Are everything.
the right pecorino, the right black pepper. I mean, Lyn will tell you how many black peppers there are in the world and where they're sourced from and how they smell and how different they are. It's incredible.
And that is what's so beautiful about nature and this planet, this world that we live in. And the things that we buy, we study, we research. Do you know what I mean? And then we delve into it, and then we learn something, you know, and we get so much from that. And I think you're giving that, you know, with what you're creating, and that is so special. You know, it's not just another thing on the shelf.
Wow, there's so many other things on the shelf these days that aren't built from scratch.
And people wanting to make lots of money.
Yeah.
And I guess I've never gone into something thinking about that because it comes from here. You know, but the beauty world is the beauty industry, and every industry is, you know, people who want to make lots of money, and you know.
It's interesting because I think there's two things in what you both said. So, Lyn, you're really stripping it back and going back to nature, and Daniel, you're sort of time traveling back via this ancient poem, and both of you are being really hyper specific in your work, and I think that is something we're seeing in culture in various different ways.
But I will just add to what you're saying. I think we are going back and we're embracing nature, but you have to embrace the future. And I'm not scared of that. So I love science. In my industry is nothing. My perfumer is nothing without science. And that's what's really interesting. And that is the future as well. And it's getting that balance. And it's creative people that need to, you know, it's my job to do that.
I think what's happening, though, from my perspective and what you now have, is that science is unlocking more of what nature already has. So being able to take these elements of fragrance and get the molecules by using natural solvents or natural processes means that there's more in. So there's more in that natural ingredient list. Because if the list would be 100%, Lyn's probably, and same as us, we're operating in the 30% or even less sometimes of what we want to use to be as close to nature as possible. But science is continually evolving to give you more things to use and more bits to play with, or certain ingredients that weren't able to be extracted. There are now ways that it can be done.
The extraction methods are just improving all the time, and yes, you know, I think for the general public, I think chemical is not a bad word, and people should realise that it's actually a good word. Naturals can be the most terrifying, actually, and volatile. Yeah, I mean, they're really hard to work with from a creative point of view. I've just spent my vocation studying them and knowing how to work with them. That was my thing. But they are really hard to work with. I mean, most other perfumers think I'm crazy to use them like I do. But the science is the way you bring in the science is, you know. And I find that more in my work, actually. As I get older, I'm really embracing that side a lot more. I've just done a fragrance that's completely synthetic, and I'm really synthetic. A lot of the constituents exist in nature, so you know what I mean. But it's not my usual stroke. But it's really interesting, and I'm really So it's
I mean, what Lyn's saying is very interesting in that sense of what's opening up in our world, but also why it's so hard to work with naturals. And so it is a craft, and it's not created. Not everyone has that skill set. You can put something through a machine and it can tell you what it's made of, supposedly, but not really. And so the craftsmanship of creation with naturals is really difficult, and working with them is really hard. And we were doing that for the underarms, which means the restrictions are even harder. It's not because it's not on your body. This is almost as sensitive as your eye. Which maybe when we brief Lyn one day, we'll give her all the restrictions of what's required. But it's super difficult. Like our essence, we weren't even trying to create a fragrance, to be honest. It was a complete byproduct of the brand. We wanted to make 2 deodorants, a roll, a spray, and a body wash, and then the fragrance was because, you know, I was using it in the shower and this beautiful scent drifted through the house, and I thought, we better make it into a fragrance, which is what we began with, was the real haute perfumery, old school style of fragrance to put into a deodorant, which wouldn't get through many boardrooms, I can tell you now, in any of the big companies. Too much cost and too much difficulty. And our perfume house were like, looked at us many times like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you taking natural fragrance, as natural as it can be, natural derived, 99%, whatever, and whacking it into a natural base? Because it just completely breaks many, many times over. But we got there in the end. But it was...
but that's so frustrating to hear that.
It's frustrating, yeah.
You just think, well, we have to do this.
We have to do this. We got to persevere and crack on.
Yeah, and we have a customer who wants this.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my little Easter egg trick. So this is my favorite detail. So these little tabs, they're kind of like broken ceramics, and they are kind of like scent samples.
Yeah, we found a beautiful supplier that could impregnate the scent into a small ceramic.
That's a wonderful medium.
And just to keep it in your pocket or the like. But we didn't. No, I know they're required and they're very good, but we didn't really want to make little tiny spritzing things that sit at the bottom of toiletry bags. So we thought, how do we do this differently?
What do you mean? You mean
the 1 ml vials, or
samples?
Yes, I didn't. Everyone wants them. Everyone needs them. So we thought we'd make those.
And we're always running out. And we're always, we have people screaming at us. Honestly, we try our best.
We try our best, but it's very hard.
I think people don't realise, they kind of think you're a big brand and that you'll always, have stock or, but, it gets all, samples, because samples are free.
Yeah, we really...
And that I always want, but it's just the demand is sometimes...
insatiable, and the quantities you need. But it's hard to do, right? We also really pushed our sizing up as much as we could, just because we didn't want to proliferate waste. But people, it's a hard thing to explain. You did 100 ml fragrance, it's expensive, it's made incredibly well, it's big, but that's people, so it's an interesting one. So and same thing with all of our deodorants, pushed them up to 75 mils, created refills for them, much like what you did, just to make sure that there was more or less things in the world, maybe put our head on the pillow at the end of the night and know that we've been responsible, not throwing around sustainability and all these other sort of like platitudes. It's just responsibility, I think, is important. Yeah, but it's hard to do.
It is extremely hard. And launching products, we take so much time, like you do. I mean, it's I mean, my sister does all our products, and I mean, we work day and night at it. At the weekend, she'll come around for dinner and we'll be talking about it. I mean, it never stops. I'm sure you're the same.
But I think what's beautiful is that, it sits on two axes. Like, I want to work with the perfumer and to make a large quantity of deodorants or the like. But what you can do is literally go into your lab in Crawford Street and mix something up and be, here's the genesis of something, and then decide and edit your big pile until you get to, okay, here's the things that actually need to exist in the world. And we need to do the same. We need to be really sure that this has a place in the world to launch it. And that's not always the care that goes into the release of product, because it's without sounding negative, it's fuel for awareness and press and things like this, which is important and we all need, but maybe we don't all need as much in the world all the time.
Okay, let's finish with the quick fire round. So, first beauty product.
First beauty product is probably a face cleanser, amazing face cleanser from Aesop. When I began there, I'd never washed my face before.
Lyn, first beauty product?
Oh God, I think I did a mail order when I was at school with Molten Brown for some kind of thing. I can remember. I was really excited when it arrived.
Okay, your favourite product from the Liberty Beauty Hall, and you're not allowed to choose your own brand.
For me, I love everything that Astia de Villatte does, which is not exactly beauty, but they have lovely incense and candles and fragrances, and they're very, very interesting people.
Favourite beauty treatment?
Jeanne Casimir, if you ever go to Le Bon Marché, she sometimes has a residency there, and she does a facial in a way, which is mainly just movements of hand, and she usually just uses almond oil. But yeah, if you're in France, look her up if you want to go. Used to work with her. She's amazing. Yeah.
I guess I still go to Vishali facials. I love her facials. I think her hands are magical.
Your best beauty tip?
You're never more than 4 weeks away from a good haircut for someone with short hair, should I say?
My best beauty tip is be happy, live life.
Most overrated ingredient?
Naturals.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
You're tired of them.
Most underrated ingredient?
Synthetics. Because people just don't understand them, and there's nothing to fear. They are the most. They are wonderful.
If your brand was a song, what song would it be?
Maybe something that Leonard Cohen wrote in Hydra, but I don't know what that would be. So Long Marianne, something like that, I think.
And finally, a 12-step routine or a 3-step routine?
Definitely 3, max.
Deodorant.
Deodorant, yeah. Absolutely, deodorant.
I mean,
brush my teeth.
Fragrance. I've gone back into wearing fragrance.
Do you wear fragrance normally?
I didn't for ages.
Don't,
Yeah, I didn't for ages, and now I do. And I am really loving it.
Yeah.
Well, that is the end of the episode. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Beauty Briefing, and thank you to Lyn and Daniel for being such amazing guests.